Conjuring universe movie recaps in chronological order. The Nun. The movie starts in 1952 in a monastery in Romania where two nuns are going through a dark hall. There's a door that says God ends here, and one of the nuns goes in to get some Christian relic. She comes back all bloody and attacked and tells Sister Victoria, the other nun, to run before being dragged away. Sister Victoria is able to get away from this thing, a demon appearing as a nun. She asks God for forgiveness and unalives herself. Her body's discovered by Frenchie, who's this guy that transports supplies to the nuns. When the Vatican finds out about this ultimate sin being committed, they send Father Burke along with Sister Irene, who's like a nun in training, to investigate. They go to Romania and they meet up with Frenchie, who takes them to the abbey. They find Sister Victoria's body and they take the key. The Mother Superior of the abbey tells Father Burke and Sister Irene that the nuns observe a period of silence during the night and they'll have to come back tomorrow, but that they can stay at the attached convent. So during this time and before morning, all kinds of stuff happens. Frenchie sees a vision of Sister Victoria, but it's really a demon who attacks, but he gets away. Sister Irene sees a demon nun in the mirror who tries to attack her. Father Burke sees a vision of Daniel, this boy who lost his life on his watch during a ritual of exorcism, but it's really a demon who buries him alive until Sister Irene rescues him. The next day they go back to the abbey, but only Irene is allowed to enter because of some rule that they have. She meets some of the other nuns and she finds out that they're constantly praying and taking shifts to keep the evil away. One of them, Sister Ona, says that the abbey was built in the Dark Ages as a castle for this weirdo duke who was obsessed with the occult. He summoned a demon through a rift in the catacombs, but was stopped by Christian knights who sealed it with a vial containing the blood of Christ. But the bombings during World War II reopened the rift and unleashed the evil entity. Burke IDs the demon, Valak, and finds Mother Superior that they've been talking to all this time has been dead all along. Frenchie goes back to the abbey to help Irene and Burke. Valak attacks Irene and she joins the nuns in prayer to keep it away. But when Burke, Irene, and Frenchie all meet back up, Irene discovers that those nuns that she was talking to and praying with weren't even real, and she's been by herself this whole time. They realize that Sister Victoria from the beginning had been the last nun in the abbey and unalived herself as a sacrifice to stop Valak from possessing her and unleashing evil. The trio are like, okay, we need to get this vial with the blood of Christ and seal this rift to stop Valak. They go into the catacombs and they unlock the tunnel door with a key that they found on Sister Victoria. Valak attacks and briefly possesses Irene until Frenchie puts some of the blood of Christ on her face, casting him out. Burke is wounded by Daniel's ghost as Valak tries to drown Irene in a flooded chamber. Irene sprays the blood of Christ in Valak's face, banishing it and sealing the rift. After Frenchie brings Irene back, he says that his real name is Maurice. They don't know this, but Maurice, Frenchie, has been possessed by Valak, and we see an inverted crucifix on the back of his neck. There's a time jump to 20 years later. Ed and Lorraine Warren are at a seminar showing footage of them performing an exorcism on Frenchie, while Carolyn, the mom from the first Conjuring, watches, leading us into that movie. Annabelle creation. The movie opens up in 1946 with this doll maker dude Samuel Mullins crafting the doll that we will later know as Annabelle. While he's working, his daughter Annabelle, who has the nickname of Bee, slips him a small note because she wants to play hide and seek. She's so cute and she's sweet and their little family's so happy. The next day on the way home from church, the Mullins get a flat tire. Bee tries to help and she goes to grab one of the bolts that comes loose while Samuel is fixing it, and she gets hit by a car. 12 years later, the Mullins have opened up their home to a group of orphan girls. Among them, best friends Janice and Linda and sister Charlotte, their guardian. Janice suffered from polio and is now disabled. Esther, Samuel's wife, suffered from an accident years earlier, and the girls don't really know much else about her. She stays in her room all the time. Samuel shows Janice a chairlift that he had made for Esther to help her move up and down the stairs. While the girls pick their rooms, Janice tries to go into this locked room, but Samuel tells her that it's off limits and it has to stay locked. Janice and Linda get a room for themselves, and the other girls go outside to explore. Linda doesn't want to leave Janice behind, so she stays, but Janice doesn't want to be treated differently and tells Linda that she can go on with the others. Now that Janice is alone, it's creepy time, and she senses a presence, but there's no one there. At night, Janice wanders outside of her room as someone slips her a small note, like the ones that Bee used to leave for her dad. Bee's room is unlocked. She goes in and finds finds her belongings and a key that unlocks a hidden door in the room. She opens the door and finds a place covered with pages from the Bible and the doll that Samuel made sitting there. After seeing it, Janice is creeped out and is like, nope, and she shuts the door, but too late, she's already unwittingly released the powerful demon. The next day, Samuel sees a picture in Sister Charlotte's room, and she tells him that this was her old convent in Romania. Samuel notices a dark form of what looks like a demon nun. It's Valak. Later, the girls have a scary experience while telling ghost stories, and the next day, Janice finds out about Bee and takes a photograph that she finds of Bee and the doll sitting together. At night, Linda, Janice's best friend, catches her going to Bee's room, but she leaves because she doesn't want to get in trouble. Janice sees what appears as Bee, asks her what she wants, and a demonic-looking Bee says, "Your soul." She tries to get away, but demonic Bee severely injures her, leaving her confined to a wheelchair. Linda, Janice's best friend, is also tormented by the demon. One morning, the demon takes on Sister Charlotte's form, wheels Janice into the old barn, and possesses her. Linda knows something's up with Janice and confesses to Samuel about sneaking into Bee's room and finding the doll. Possessed Janice can now walk and unalive Samuel. Sister Charlotte hears his screams and finds him on the floor. Linda takes Janice's doll and throws it into the well, but is almost dragged into it until Sister Charlotte saves her. Now scared, she speaks with Esther, who tells her that after she and Samuel lost Bee, they prayed to whatever entity would grant their wish to see their daughter again. And whatever it was answered their prayer, and they briefly saw Bee's spirit, but they messed up when they allowed this entity that was actually a demon looking for a human host to transfer its essence into one of the dolls. Esther's eye was gouged out by the demon when she saw Bee's spirit transforming into it. They got priests to bless the house and lock the doll in Bee's closet, and they opened their home to the orphans to repent for what they did. Now Esther regrets it because it's given the demon the chance to look for a human host. The demon unalives Esther and attacks Sister Charlotte. The orphans leave the house, but Linda is trapped and hides in Bee's room as the possessed Janice tries to stab her. Sister Charlotte locks Janice and the doll inside the closet, and they get away. The next day, the police only find the doll during their search of the house. Sister Charlotte, Linda, and the other girls leave to find a new home, and Janice escapes through a hole in the closet wall. Still possessed, she relocates to an orphanage in Santa Monica. She calls herself Annabelle and is adopted by a couple, Pete and Sharon Higgins. 12 years later, she's a grown-up devil worshiper who returns home to unalive her adoptive parents, who are neighbors to Mia from the first Annabelle movie. The Nun 2. The movie starts off in Tarascon, France, with Father Noret and his altar boy Jacques. Jacques hears something after church service and has Father Noret investigate it, and then Father Noret is mysteriously burned alive right in front of Jacques. Meanwhile, Sister Irene is at a convent in Italy, and Frenchie Maurice, the guy who saved her in the first Nun, is in some French boarding school. There, he's befriended a little girl named Sophie. Sophie's mom is a teacher, and she likes Maurice. Maurice likes her, and it's all really sweet, but it also sucks because apparently Maurice has been wreaking havoc, murdering people in churches all over Europe, and he doesn't know it. And this is because he carries Valak, or the demon nun, inside of him. Sister Irene has a vision of Maurice in distress, and the next day she gets a visit from the cardinal, who's like, look girl, the evil has escaped and we're gonna need your help. Oh, and Father Burke, who helped you in the first Nun movie, is no longer with us because he is fallen sick and has passed away, so you're going to have to perform whatever miracle you did before, and you're on your own. Sister Irene takes a train to France. Sister Deborah, who's this nun in training that Irene has kind of taken under her wing, joins her. Sister Irene tells her that she's going to have to get right with God, and she's going to have to make sure that her faith is really strong because Sister Deborah is having issues with this if she's going to help her face this evil. They arrived at Tarascon. Irene has a vision of Jacques, follows him, and is attacked by Valak. Sister Deborah shows up to help her, and the next day reveals that Jacques, the altar boy, had kept the rosary from church the night of the whole father burning and stuff, and gave her the rosary. Back at the boarding school, Maurice's little friend Sophie is locked inside an abandoned monastery chapel by these mean girls who tell her to stand in front of this mosaic of a goat, and that when the sun shines on it just the right way, its eye turns red, and if she looks away from it, she's going to summon the devil. Irene and Deborah do some investigating and learn about the demon's origins and the origins of this relic of St. Lucy that it's in pursuit of, and this relic is St. Lucy's eyes. There's this whole backstory that goes with the relic, but anyway, long story short, it happens to be at this former monastery that is now a boarding school, which is where Frenchie is. Deborah and Irene go to the school, and when they get there, they find Maurice, Frenchie, already starting to turn, and he's with Sophie and Kate. Sister Irene tells them about the demon inside of him, and they all get attacked. Sophie shows Irene, Deborah, and Kate the mosaic of the goat, and it reveals the relic's location. Deborah and Kate get separated from Irene and Sophie to go protect the other girls. Then all hell literally starts breaking loose everywhere. We got Maurice chasing Sophie. We've got the goat from the mosaic come to life chasing the girls. Irene finds Sophie and Deborah rejoins them. Irene then realizes that she's a descendant of St. Lucy and harnesses the relic's power to defeat Valak. She and Deborah use their faith to transform the wine into the blood of Christ, vanquishing Valak back to hell where he belongs. But not really, because we already know that years later, the Warrens perform an exorcism on Maurice. Annabelle. The movie starts off with the same opening scene as The Conjuring, with the two girls and guys telling Ed and Lorraine Warren about their scary experience with the Annabelle doll. Jump back a year earlier, John and Mia are a married couple expecting a baby. They talk about baby names with their neighbors, the Higgins, the couple who adopted possessed Janice, going by the name Annabelle at the end of the Annabelle creation movie. Mia collects dolls and her husband John buys her one that she's been trying to find for quite some time as his way of apologizing for his "I'm not sure we're ready to have a baby" attitude. One day Mia has the TV on and there's news reporting about the Manson family cult's crimes with Manson's arrest. John tells Mia that she shouldn't expose their unborn baby to this dark stuff. At night, Mia hears the unaliving of the Higgins couple next door by their possessed daughter Annabelle and her boyfriend. After sending John to go look, he comes back and tells Mia to call 911. She does, but then she hears Annabelle's voice telling her, "I like your dolls." And then a man stabs her in the side. John runs in and it turns into a struggle with the intruders. Police get there and take out the guy while Annabelle unalives herself in another room. She leaves a bloody symbol on the wall while dying and holding the doll. A drop of her blood falls and sinks into the doll's eye. The news reports that Annabelle Higgins and her boyfriend in fact unalived her adoptive parents and were part of a demonic cult. Mia and the baby are okay, but she's on bed rest now. Creepy things start happening. Mia suspects it's a doll and tells John, "Okay, this doll's got to go, like right now," and he dumps it in a bin outside. The next day, the stove turns on by itself and a fire gets started. Mia tries to get out of the house, but is dragged by some unseen force. A group of men go in and pull her out. When John goes to Mia at the hospital, he sees that she's okay and has given birth to their baby girl. They move into a new apartment since Mia is afraid to return home. When she unpacks, she finds the creepy Annabelle doll and sets it alongside the other dolls. Scary stuff starts happening, like Mia seeing what looks like the ghost of a little girl that turns into a grown woman, Annabelle Higgins. She contacts a detective that worked on the Higgins unaliving case, and she finds out that Annabelle and her boyfriend were part of this cult called the Disciples of the Ram. The cult seeks to summon a demon by claiming a soul. She meets a woman named Evelyn at a bookstore who is a tenant in her apartment building too. Mia realizes that the demon that was summoned by the cult followed her family after they moved out so that it could claim a soul. After Mia gets home, she and the baby are attacked by the demon that reveals itself while manipulating the doll. She and John go to their parish priest, Father Bettis, who tells them that demons sometimes attach themselves to objects as an advantage to accomplish their goals and that a human soul must be offered for a purpose. He can't exorcise the demon out of the doll, so he takes it to get help from Ed and Lorraine Warren, but doesn't get that far because he's attacked by the demon who takes the doll. John checks on him at the hospital and Father Bettis says, "Look, this thing's not playing and it wants Mia's soul." That night, while Evelyn is visiting Mia, the demon in the form of Father Bettis takes baby Leah for her mother's soul. Mia tries to jump out the window to spare her baby, but John and Evelyn are able to stop her. Evelyn decides to sacrifice herself in Mia's place instead to atone for causing a car accident that resulted in losing her daughter Ruby years ago. As Evelyn lies on the road, the demon and the doll disappear. Baby Leah is safe and Mia and John never see the doll again. 6 months later, a lady in an antique shop buys Annabelle the doll for her daughter Debbie, a nursing student and one of the girls who went to the Warrens for help at the beginning of the movie. Then the Annabelle doll is seen locked away in the Warrens' creepy collection room. The Conjuring! The movie starts off with friends, roommates telling Ed and Lorraine Warren about their doll Annabelle and their terrifying experiences because of her. After that whole scene's over, we see the parent family, Roger, Carolyn, their 5 daughters, and doggy Sadie, moving into an old farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. But right from the start, Sadie does not want to go in the house. The daughters like to play this game that they call hide and clap, and they find a boarded up entrance into the cellar. Scary things start happening, like the clock keeps stopping at 3:07 a.m. and Sadie is found unalived in their yard. One night, Christine, one of the girls, sees an evil presence and says that it wants her family unalived. Another night, while going to investigate noises, Carolyn hears this voice asking if she wants to play hide and clap, and she gets trapped in a basement. As all that is happening, Andrea and Cindy are attacked by this scary, old-looking demon woman that was on top of their wardrobe. Carolyn goes to Ed and Lorraine Warren to ask for help. Ed initially turns her down, but Carolyn insists, and when Lorraine sees how desperate she is, she agrees, and they conduct an initial investigation. They say that the house may require an exorcism, but need further evidence and permission from the Catholic Church, and they place cameras and bells around the house. They discover that the house once belonged to this woman named Bathsheba. She was an accused witch who sacrificed her newly born child to the devil. She cursed anyone who took her land and unalived herself in 1863. Ed and Lorraine find reports of unalivings of the people who had lived on the property to use as evidence. Bathsheba appears to Carolyn as she possesses her one morning, and that night Cindy, one of the daughters, is lured by a spirit to the wardrobe to secret passage. Lorraine goes in and follows through the floorboards to the cellar, and there she sees the spirit of a woman that Bathsheba possessed to unalive her child a long time ago. Nancy, another one of the daughters, is attacked by Bathsheba, and they're like, yes, this is the evidence that we need. Now we have it on camera, so the church has to help us. However, now they have to get special permission from the Vatican because the parents aren't members of the Catholic Church. The parents are like, bump this, we're going to a hotel. In the meantime, the Warrens' daughter Judy is attacked in her own home by Bathsheba, but she ends up okay. Possessed Carolyn takes two of the girls, Christine and April, from the hotel back to the house to unalive them. Ed and Lorraine find her trying to stab Christine. They tie Carolyn to a chair, and Ed's like, look, we don't have time to wait for a priest. I'm going in. And he performs the exorcism himself. He's attacked by Bathsheba, and Carolyn escapes briefly and tries to unalive April, but Lorraine is able to get through to Carolyn by reminding her of a special happy memory at the beach with her family. This helps Ed, and it gives him enough time to complete the exorcism and send Bathsheba back to hell where she belongs. All is well now, and Ed and Lorraine come home to a message saying that they got their approval from the church to perform the exorcism. They also have another case to investigate in Long Island. Ed adds a music box from the parents' house to their collection of cursed items. The music opens and plays music. Annabelle comes home. The movie starts with Ed and Lorraine Warren taking the demonic Annabelle doll off the hands of the terrified friends that went to them for help. On the drive home, Annabelle summons spirits to attack Ed, but he survives. They make it home and lock Annabelle in the glass case in their cursed artifacts room. Their daughter Judy sees a not-so-great article about Ed and Lorraine. She has a hard time at school. The kids decline her birthday party invitations. She's seen some ghostly priest, and this little punk kid named Anthony is just a jerk to her. Until Mary Ellen comes to her defense. Mary Ellen is Judy's babysitter for the weekend while Ed and Lorraine travel to work on a case. That evening, Mary Ellen's friend Daniela, who's that kid Anthony's older sister but nicer, wants to low-key check out the cursed artifacts room. Mary Ellen makes Judy a birthday cake, and Daniela gives her a pair of roller skates. While Mary Ellen takes Judy to try them out, Daniela sneaks into the cursed artifacts room and tries to contact her late father. Without knowing, she releases the spirit of Annabelle, and Annabelle, being ever so generous, releases all the other spirits. Then the fun begins. Daniela thinks she sees her late father. Judy thinks she sees Annabelle on a rocking chair. Then the spirit called the bride goes after her. Mary Ellen and Daniela go to help her. Then they look at some of the pictures and stuff that the Warrens kept from their investigations. Bob, a guy that Mary Ellen has a crush on, arrives. Later, as he's playing music outside to impress Mary Ellen, he's attacked by the spirit of a hellhound. Daniela gets locked inside the artifacts room when she tries to go return the room keys. Then she sees a spirit of her father who torments her, knowing that she blames herself for his death. The other objects and spirits torment her as well. Mary Ellen and Judy aren't doing any better on their end, and they're dealing with their own scary stuff and with Annabelle. They manage to get Daniela out, and Daniela's like, yeah, I touched everything in the room. Judy says that Annabelle's the instigator who got everybody stirred up, so they're gonna have to lock her back up so that the other spirits will rest. Then they get separated. The bride goes after Daniela, Judy runs out, and Bob, Mary Ellen's crush, saves her from the hellhound. Mary Ellen is nearly crushed by some samurai armor. She and Judy look for Annabelle, and then she is attacked by Daniela, who's been possessed by the bride. Judy saves them by playing footage of Ed and Lorraine performing an exorcism. That ghostly priest that Judy had been seeing earlier was actually a good guy and guides them to find Annabelle. As they try to lock Annabelle back up, the demon attacks Judy. She defends herself with a cross, and they manage to lock Annabelle back up. Everything goes back to normal, and Judy tells Mary Ellen and Daniela that Bob saved her. The next morning, Ed and Lorraine return, and Mary Ellen accepts a date for homecoming with Bob. Later, only Ed, Lorraine, and Judy celebrate her birthday. Then, Mary Ellen, Bob, and Daniela show up along with a nicer Anthony and the rest of Judy's classmates. Daniela apologizes to Lorraine, who gives her a message from her father saying that he misses her and wants her to stop blaming herself for what happened to him. They hug and go back to Judy's party. We then see a family picture of the Warrens, and it transitions to the real-life picture of the Warrens along with a dedication to Lorraine. The Curse of La Llorona. The movie starts off in Mexico, 1673. There's a woman and a man. They're two kids. They're all happy, and they're like ring around the rosing or whatever the hell it is that they're doing. A little boy covers up his eyes. When he opens them back up, he can't find anybody. He looks for his mom and dad, and he finds his mother by the river drowning his brother. Then his mom goes after him and drags him back into the river. Then the movie jumps forward to Los Angeles, 1973. We meet a single mom named Anna with her kids, Chris and Sam. She's getting them ready for school. She's a social worker. When she goes into work, her boss tells her that one of the families that she works with, they haven't heard anything from them. The kids have not been to school. So Anna asks her boss for permission. Can I go check on them? She goes to the home of Patricia. That's the mom's name. And at first she doesn't want to let them in. When they go in, they find the boys in the closet. And Patricia tells Anna that she's been hearing the sound of a woman crying. Patricia tries to keep Anna and the police officer from getting them out of the closet because they're locked up in there. They manage to get them out. They take them to the hospital. When they take them to the hospital, they notice that the boys have these burn marks. Then once they're alone and in bed, they encounter La Llorona. Anna gets a call from her boss to go to the hospital. She takes her kids with her, and when she gets there, she's told that the boys' bodies were found by the river. Patricia, understandably, is devastated, and she blames Anna because Anna kept her from protecting her children in the closet. In the meantime, Anna's kids are waiting in the car. Chris gets out of the car to go find out what's going on, and while he's doing this, he encounters La Llorona, and she grabs him, and now he has a burn mark on his wrist. He runs back to the car. She goes after him. She tries to roll the window down, and now Sam sees her, but then Anna gets there just in time, and then she's gone. Now she's after Anna's kids. Anna goes by the family's home the next day and sees them involved in some kind of like cleansing ritual, and then she meets Father Perez, the one from the Annabelle movies, who kind of explains to her what's going on. Anna asks Father Perez about La Llorona, and he tells her the legend of La Llorona, who was this beautiful woman that fell in love with this rancher dude. They got married, had 2 beautiful children, and then this mofo cheated on her, and instead of taking it out on him like a normal person, she decided to drown the 2 children as revenge. When it sank in and she realized what she did, she was so consumed with grief that she unalived herself in the river too, and because she did this, she was barred from entering the afterlife and doomed to wander the earth looking for her children. Chris, Patricia's daughter, encounters La Llorona when she's like hanging out by a pool. La Llorona grabs her wrist, and now she has the burn marks too. Anna goes to see Patricia, who still blames her for what happened to her children, and she tells Anna that she did not pray to God for the salvation of her children, but instead prayed to La Llorona to take Anna's kids in exchange for her own. I mean, what the hell, Patricia? Social workers show up to Anna's home because they think something's up. The kids have burn marks. They lie and say that they fell. Then that night, Anna sees La Llorona. Anna talks to her son Chris, asks him what's been going on. He's talking to her about this. Then La Llorona tries to drown Sam. They go to help her, and then she grabs Anna by the wrist, and now Anna has a burn mark. Anna goes to Father Perez for help, and he tells her that he didn't used to believe in the supernatural until his run-in with a certain doll, and then he sends her to this guy that used to be a priest. His name is Rafael. Rafael tells him that no matter where they go, La Llorona's going to go after them, so he agrees to help them. He goes over to the house to stay there so that they could figure out a way to keep her out. Rafael has this tube that contains the tears of La Llorona. She shows up and attacks. He throws the tears at her and drives her away for now. Then he spreads these seeds across the doorway to keep La Llorona from coming in. That was only the front door. Chris is like, what about the back door? So they go back there to go take care of that. And in the meantime, little Sam sees her doll on the other side of the seed line across the doorway. She's trying to figure out how to get it, and as she's doing that, she accidentally breaks the line or the barrier of the seeds, and La Llorona gets in. She pulls Sam outside, and then Anna realizes that she's probably going to try to drown her in the pool, so they go out there to help her. Anna jumps in the pool. La Llorona tries to get her, but but then Rafael blesses the water in the pool and forces La Llorona out. Patricia shows up with a weapon, determined to take Anna's kids away from her so that she can exchange them for her own. The kids run in the house to hide, and La Llorona appears again. Patricia changes her mind and lets Rafael and Anna go help the kids. Rafael tries to hold La Llorona off by using his cross. She hurls him back, and then Anna runs in to help the kids. As she attacks, Rafael kicks the cross over to Anna. She uses the cross to impale La Llorona and destroy her. Their ordeal is over. Everything's all good the next morning. The family's there thanking Rafael, and they're seeing him off. The kids run inside to play. Anna starts to go in too, but she turns around and looks at the sidewalk, and there's something there. It looks like it's a puddle of tears. The Conjuring 2. It starts off with Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're in Amityville doing that whole investigation, and while they're there, they're doing the seance. And during the seance, Lorraine goes through this weird first-person POV of Ronald DeFeo while unaliving his family, and she encounters a demonic nun. Then she sees Ed unalived in a really bad way, and it scares the poop out of her. Jump forward to 1977, London, and there's this family, the Hodgson family. The second oldest of the kids, Janet, makes the spirit board and starts playing with it. So as a result of that, they're now having to deal with paranormal occurrences. Janet's sleepwalking. She encounters this ghost of this angry elderly man that insists that the house is his and that they need to get the hell out. It gets really bad, and to the point to where everybody in the family has had some kind of run-in with this entity. So they pick up and they go to their friend's house. The media comes in. They're trying to interview the family, and Janet supposedly gets possessed by the spirit of the old dude, Bill Wilkins. The spirit talks through Janet and says that he enjoys tormenting the family and that home is his. News of Janet's possession reaches the Warrens, and they're called by the church to help assist in this investigation. Lorraine's not really wanting them to go because she's still freaked out over the vision that she had in Amityville of Ed being unalive. Lorraine keeps having visions of this demonic nun, and during one of those times, she gets the name of the demon and she scribbles it down in a Bible. They meet with the paranormal investigators and try to talk to Bill Wilkins' spirit to try to convince him to go. It seems pretty legit that Janet is possessed or seeing all the signs, but Gregory, one of the investigators, presents the Warrens with a video that captured Janet throwing things around, so she's been doing this whole thing herself, or at least that's what it looks like. After seeing this, Ed and Lorraine don't really have much of a choice, so they pack it up and go home. But on the way back, they actually figure out that the spirit of Bill Wilkins is being manipulated by that demonic nun. And also, Lorraine figures out that this demonic nun, demon, has been clouding her vision so that she doesn't get to the bottom of the truth of Janet's possession. They rush back to go help. By this time, Janet is full-blown possessed. The family's locked out of the house. Ed can't get in. He rushes around to get into the house to find a way. During that time, lightning crashes outside the house, and it splits one of the trees in half, revealing this like jagged edge. And the jagged edge is the same one that Lorraine saw in her vision of Ed being unalived and impaled. Ed gets there just in time to reach Janice, who's standing at the edge of the window ready to jump, and saves her, but it's never that easy, so they struggle a little bit. And while that's happening, Lorraine is facing off with the demonic nun, and she calls its name, Valak, and banishes it back to hell. This sets Janet free of the possession, and Lorraine is able to help her and Ed down from the windowsill. All is well. Ed and Lorraine are back home, and Ed takes the little game toy thing with the little song about the crooked man that Janet's little brother liked to play with, and he adds it to the cursed artifacts room. The Conjuring 3. We start off with a full-blown exorcism of a young boy named David. Ed and Lorraine are struggling. Then Arnie, who is David's sister's boyfriend, jumps in and tells the demon to enter. The demon's like, okay, and he does. David is freed. Ed has a heart attack but recovers. Things are seemingly back to normal with David and Arnie. Arnie and Debbie, David's sister, get engaged. Arnie starts seeing the demon, and he even gets grabbed at one point. Ed tells Lorraine that the demon is still in Arnie. She tries to contact Arnie, but she can't get through. And in the meantime, Arnie thinks that he sees some altercation with his friend and girlfriend and sees his friend as a demon. This is all in his head, of course, and he ends up unaliving his friend. He gets arrested. Ed and Lorraine go to see him, but he's not possessed at the time because the demon had been summoned elsewhere. Arnie's on trial for unaliving. Ed and Lorraine try to help him. They speak with his lawyer, who's like, yeah, it's not looking too good for Arnie right now. After they invite her over to dinner and they enlighten her, Arnie's lawyer uses demonic possession as Arnie's defense. It doesn't go over well. Ed and Lorraine try to gather evidence of his possession. David tells them of his experience with the demon. They find a satanic witch's totem in the house that was used to curse the Glatzel family, causing David's possession and then the transfer to Arnie. The demon stayed in him until he unalived someone. They meet with a former priest who dealt with with the disciples of the Ram cult. He warns them that they could be in danger going against a cult. Cursed Arnie is having scary experiences in jail. The Warrens' assistant finds some useful info about another case of unaliving that could be connected, and they talk to the police. Lorraine has a vision and discovers that a girl named Jessica unalived her friend Katie while she was possessed and then unalived herself. Lorraine believes that a person summoned the demon to cause Arnie to unalive his friend, and she believes that this person could do it again. She finds the location of the occultist that's behind all of this and has a vision of her performing some ritual to try to get Arnie to unalive himself in jail. Lorraine stops her and then realizes that the connection or vision goes both ways, and now this occultist knows all about her and tries to go after Lorraine, but like remotely. The Warrens go back to the house to investigate more, and their assistant Drew tells them that he found this book of witchcraft that says that the curse can be lifted by destroying the altar that's used by the witch, the occultist, so now they have to find her. Ed gets attacked. He hallucinates like Arnie did and almost unalives Lorraine, but Drew stops him. They realize that they're being affected by the curse, and they find a totem in the vase in their house. Ed and Lorraine Scooby-Doo it and split up. Lorraine goes to find the priest for help. Meanwhile, Ed figures out that the witch's location is near the priest. Kastner, that's the priest, tells Lorraine that he secretly had a daughter who became obsessed with the occult when he was researching it. He kept it silent to protect her until Lorraine came to him, and he tells her that her altar is probably in a tunnel under the house. He leads her there, then his daughter, the occultist, unalives him. Lorraine finds the altar, and the occultist Satanist goes after her. Ed gets there to help Lorraine, but the Satanist bewitches him, and he nearly unalives Lorraine until she forces him to remember the first time that they met. He comes to and destroys the altar, lifting the curse and saving everyone. But then the Satanist comes at them with a knife, but she's punished by the demon for failing to complete the curse, and it takes her life. With the help of Ed and Lorraine, Arnie gets 5 years for manslaughter rather than the unaliving penalty that he was facing before. The movie closes with a sweet, loving scene between Ed and Lorraine.